This is Spunky,
And Snarky.
and we say,
Welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome to our last week in July. Time is flying by lately with all the COVID stuff going on. And today we wanted to take a little look because on Saturday I was supposed to be on a plane to go to the Olympics, but that got canceled. So we're gonna have a little celebration of the Olympics, which is one of my favorite events of every couple years. I'm someone who doesn't watch sports all that much and isn't all that patriotic, but when it's Olympic time, game on. Anyway, so today we're looking at a movie that I really enjoyed as a kid that talks about the Olympics. No, not Miracle. We're talking Jamaica's bobsled team, Cool Runnings. Some people say, they can't believe
Jamaica has a bobsled team. And I've never seen this movie, but I knew that song for some reason.
Probably because I sang it. I used to watch this movie on the Disney Channel like all the time.
Anyway, so let's dive on into this movie. So today we're watching Cool Runnings, which was released on October 1st, 1993. It was John Candy's last film to be released while he was alive, and it's loosely based on the true story of the Jamaican national bobsled team's debut in competition during the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
The movie starts off in the grassy fields of Jamaica, and you see a sprinter on some makeshift track. Like he's got some rock starting blocks, and he's gonna run, and the kids are rolling out toilet paper for him to run through, and which he does, but then he keeps running, and he's kind of running through the town, and you get to see the marketplace and everything.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part. Was you see the two ladies and they're like, I can watch him run all day. And I'm like, oh, that's so mean. Snarky over here.
So he's running through, and you kind of find out that he's gearing up to run in the Olympic qualifier for the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, Korea. So he runs to this derby that's taking place. It's like a boxcar race. And you meet his friend, Sanka, who's with these kids, and they're going to compete in this derby. So they're doing this feel the rhythm, feel the ride. It's derby time. And so they start going down the hill in this makeshift little box cart, and they're doing really good. They're passing people, egging them on, and then all of a sudden things go off the rails and they can't slow down, and they end up crashing into a little shack. The main guy's you dead? And he's yeah. He's covered in soot, but he's fine, really.
I thought it was funny that they called him Sanka Coffee. That's his actual name in the movie, because Sanka Coffee is an actual coffee brand.
Oh. And I know in Africa, coffee is anyone born on Friday, has the first name of coffee with Kofi. But
oh, really?
Yeah. But this is Jamaica, so I don't know. Oh, also, their boxcar was named the Rasta Rocket, which I thought was kind of funny too. And it was painted all colorful.
It's yellow and green and red.
So later he runs back to his house, and you meet his girlfriend and find out his name's Doris, and he's a teacher, but he's just jazzed up because he wants to go to the Olympics, and his Olympic qualifier is the next day.
So later they cut to the Olympic trial, the 100-meter dash, and the top 3 that cross the finish line make it into the Olympics. So the race starts, and Doris is doing good, but then all of a sudden the runner next to him stumbles and trips and takes him and another runner out.
And of course, there's a really slow motion replay.
No,
and the girlfriend's watching, and she knows something's about to happen because the music changed in her head, I guess. And yeah, they fall, and it's just awful. And then you see 3 other people cheering because they won, and
yeah, as very slow-mo, as he's looking up, he sees the 3 other people celebrating,
and he's got
no.
dirt just strategically placed on his face.
Yeah.
To make him look good. So clearly he didn't get in and he's super dejected. So he goes to the Olympic committee president, Coolidge, who is like, sorry, but there's no do-over. And he's like, it's not fair. And he's like, well, rarely in life it is fair. And, that kind of thing.
He's basically like, you're still young enough, you can come back in 4 years.
And he's like, 4 fucking years? Like, really? And he's like, unless you want to be like a bicyclist or a boxer, because that's the only events Jamaica competes in.
He's all sad. And so as he's about to walk out, he just happens to notice a picture on the wall. And it's his father, who is also a sprinter, standing next to a gold medal wearing white dude. And he's like, who's this other man? Oh, that's Irv Blitzer. He's an old friend of your father's who was trying to recruit sprinters to create a Jamaican bobsled team years ago. And he was a 2-time American bobsled gold medalist in the 1968 Winter Olympics, and he finished first in 2 events again during the 1972 Winter Olympics.
So you see the light kind of go off in Doris's head, and he's like, But then he's like, by the way, what's a bobsled? So he goes to Sanka and he's like, you're going to help me with this bobsled team, right? And he's like, what the fuck's a bobsled? And he's like, oh, it's this like thing that slides down a hill with ice. And he's like, ice? What the fuck you talking about? Like, there ain't no ice around here. And eventually he's like, look, I'm your friend. We've been through a lot of things. Just look me in the eye and say, Sanka, I need you. And he's like, Sanka, I really need you. And he's like, no. But then he's like, all right. He's a lot of comedy relief. He's a real fast talker, played by Dougie Doug.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, like, the bobsled's essentially the same as a push cart, except it's on, blades instead of wheels.
Yeah.
So you would think he'd be, like, totally down for it.
Except for the whole, like,
ice
being
thing.
cold
Yeah.
thing. Pretty much. So they decide they're going to go find Blitzer at this bar. And they show up and he's there, like, listening to the radio about a horse race. And, like, is clearly losing, is, like, freaking out. And then the horse is named Tumbleweed, which I thought was really funny. And afterward, Tumbleweed loses and he, like, gets, like, super pissed and, like, grabs a pool stick and, like, beats the radio up. And they're watching this and they're like, oh, snap. And so he goes up and he's like, oh, are you Irv Blitzer? We want to form a bobsled team. And he's just like, doesn't even say anything. He's like, fuck your face. And he goes for a pool cue and they're like, we better get the hell out of here. But they keep coming back and annoying him. They like show up in the toilet at one point when he's about to go and he gets all pissed off and he's like, look, clearly you're having a bad day. I'm going to come back tomorrow and the next day and the next day until you give us a chance with this like bobsled team.
Finally, Doris tells Blitzer that he's Ben Bannock's son and reminds him of his former Olympic dreams, which eventually convinces Blitzer to help them out.
You can kind of tell Irv still doesn't really want to do it, but he's just trying to get him off their case. So they hold this like recruitment meeting to try to get like 2 more people because you need 4 people for a bobsled team. And of course, there's tons of people there. And then they're showing this video and it's of all like bobsled crashes. It's like, oh, yeah, your bones don't just break in a bobsled. Oh, no, they shatter. And the film ends and there's, like, no one left in the room.
Yeah, the lights come on and there's no one left. Except for Sanka.
Because they've all left. But then the big bald dude who was tripped in the race shows up and he's like, I don't care what I got to do. I want to go to the Olympics. I want off of the island. So let's do this. His name is Yul Brynner, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. I was like, did he just make that up or is that like his real name?
Who knows?
And then the other guy, Junior, the one who tripped both of them, comes in as well.
And Yul Brynner about to kick his ass.
Yeah.
And he's like super timid, but they're like, we need him because he's the only one here. So if we're going to do this, we need him on the team.
So over the next several weeks, the 4 train under Blitzer's guidance, using a wheeled bobsled that they ride down the hillsides. Over time, they improve both their speed and sled coordination. They have to be able to jump in the bobsled within like 5 seconds or something.
6 seconds to be good. And like you have to get all into place and able to like, curl in so you gain speed.
And there's this funny part where they finally like do it and they're rolling down the hill and they can't control it and they like crash into a cop car.
And they're like, what are you doing? And it's like, we're a Jamaican bobsled team. We're practicing. And the cops just laugh at them. But then John Candy like shows up and is like, you did it. You made it. And under the 6 seconds, get your bobsled back up the hill. And the cops are just like, what the fuck is happening? So Blitzer decides that, they need some money if they're going to get to Canada. And so he talks to Mr. Coolidge to see if they can have some money from the Olympic Fund to send these guys to the Winter Olympics. But he's like, you're fucking crazy. Like, you're not going to embarrass us by sending them and they don't even know what they're doing. And so they decide that they're going to, fundraise to try to get money. So you got the big bald guy trying to arm wrestle. You got Sanka out on the street trying to panhandle with this. Some people say, they can't believe Jamaica, we have a bobsled team. And Doris and him have a kissing booth at one point until his girlfriend comes and shuts that shit down.
She's like,
And finally, this dude pays Sanka $1 to like shut the fuck up. So they only end up raising like $100. But then Junior shows up with a bag full of money because he sold his car. He's from like a rich family, but like his dad wants him to go work at some investment firm. But he just didn't tell his dad and just sold his car and is just going to deal with the consequences later. So they're off and running to Canada.
So they land in Calgary, where it's like negative 23 degrees.
And they're like freezing. So there was like a montage of Sanka like putting on every pair of clothing he brought with him and the bag.
So Blitzer officially registers the team and meets up with some of his old teammates, which some of them are not too happy to see him. But he gets this one guy to help him get a practice sled. The Jamaicans have never been in an actual bobsled or practice on actual ice.
So they start going to the ice rink and practice just walking on ice for the first time and try to get their cold endurance up. Doris sees the Swiss bobsledders like do a practice run and is like super like stoked by it and inspired. So for the first time on the ice, they just get in the bobsled and like John Candy's just gonna give them like a nudge to send them going. And like the East German team is watching and the one guy is like making fun of them. It's like, oh, you're gonna tuck them in too? They're all like, why do they hate us so much? And Yul Brynner's like, people are always afraid of what's different and we're different, which I thought kind of resonated, especially nowadays. Anyway, so they're about to go and Sanka's like, I gotta go pee. And he's like, you can't go, you gotta hold it. And he's like, no, I gotta go. And so he pushes them and they're going down, but they're not steering good. They're all over the place. And like they end up crashing on this one turn. And Doris is like, you can pee now. And he's like, I already did.
Back at the hotel, Yul talks about how he wants to get out of Jamaica and he shows them a picture of where he wants to live. Junior and Sanka laugh because it's a picture of Buckingham Palace. They're like, the only way you can live there is if you marry the queen. And he like totally didn't know and is embarrassed.
But Junior totally is like, you know what? You can do what you want. My father made his riches out of nothing, so you can too if you believe in it. And kind of peps Yul up.
Junior tells Sanka that he should take a lesson from Yul and not give up on his dreams, and this makes him feel guilty over how his life has been.
They have another practice run, and my favorite line is Sanka saying he's freezing his Rastafarian nays off. So they're going to do the running start, but they can't get in the sled. Like, they're chasing after the sled, and it's a huge fail. And there's a picture taken of them, like, chasing after the sled.
And it makes, like, international news, so it gets back to Jamaica.
Yeah, and so, of course, Junior's father finds out. And later that day, the coach of the U.S. team, like, visits Doris while he's in the locker room and tells him that Blitzer cheated, and that's why no one likes him or wants to work with him. Back at the hotel, Junior gets a telegram from his father telling him to go home, and he's like, crap, what am I going to do about this? So, of course, they do what any youngster in trouble would do. They go to the bar. So Sanka is all line dancing up in the club. And meanwhile, Junior's like freaking out what to do about his dad. And Yule is just like, look, you gotta be a man. You gotta like stand up for yourself and do what you want to do and think about your teammates. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And then the East German guy just pops in and is like, could you be quiet? And it just starts being super mean to them. And Junior's super shy and kind of is just like, oh, I'm sorry. But the German guy keeps egging him on, and Yule is like, don't mess with my man. And then he drags Junior into the bathroom to give him a pep talk and be like, look, you are pride, you are power, you are a bad motherfucker. He's like, that's what I see when I look at you in the mirror, and you gotta tell yourself this too. So he repeats it back, and he's like, I'm pride, I'm power, I'm a bad mother. And then he's like finally all into it and like storms off, and Yule's like, where's it going? And he goes over to the German guy and is like, you need to apologize to me. And he's like, or what? And then he's like, oh fuck, you didn't think that far ahead? But then Yule is like, I'll tell you what. And then they start getting into a fight. And Sanka sees them fighting and just joins in, and they have a ballroom brawl.
So back at the hotel room, Doris reprimands the rest of the boys for embarrassing their team and getting into the fight. The three are not taking him that seriously until Blitzer shows up, and then he reams their ass and reminds them what's at stake for the team if they don't start listening to him and Doris. And then they vow to take bobsledding more seriously.
So the next day, Blitzer's asleep, and they wake his ass up with an alarm clock because it's training montage time. And they have this Jamaican Rise Above It song that I was kind of digging. And so there's lots of funny things they're doing to kind of run through the snow and learn how to bobsled.
There's a part where they're sitting in the bathtub all hunched together like they're in the bobsled, and they're moving at the same time.
Yeah, doing the different turns on the course. So soon enough, it's qualifying night. And they find out that one of their judges was Blitzer's old coach. And he's like, oh shit, I'm fucked because this guy does not like me. But they still do it anyway, and they got to get under a minute, which they just changed because it was a minute too, but now they got to get under a minute. So he's like, great. So they got him some new uniforms, and they're like, we are going to do this. So they go out there and they have a really good run. They get into the bobsled in a little over 6 seconds. Things are going good. And they make it just under a minute at 59.46 seconds. And then they get back to the locker room and they're painting their sled because it looked like a bucket. They painted it with the Jamaican colors, drinking their Coke. They have a product placement Coke moment.
Coke's been the sponsor of the Olympics for God knows how
and
long.
Disney and Coke, and it's all connected, but whatever. There's a funny moment where they're like, what should we name the bobsled? And Junior's like, oh, we should name it Tallulah. And they're like, that sounds like a 2-cent hooker. And he's like, that's my mother's name.
And then they're like, oh, that's nice.
And then they decide to name it Cool Runnings. And it means peace be the journey. And so they're having a good time, and then they get this letter. And it turns out the administration decided to disqualify them.
So they were disqualified because they said that they were supposed to qualify in another event, but then they didn't. So Blitzer goes to the committee and gives this impassioned speech about just because they're different, they should still be able to compete, and just because you're mad at me for cheating back in the day.
Yeah, I fucked up. So if you want to disqualify someone, disqualify me. But they worked hard and they should be allowed to walk into the opening ceremony under the Jamaican flag because they earned it, and you shouldn't be able to take it away. There was a part where he's to one guy, I didn't know 4 black guys in a bobsled would make you blush, because he's basically saying they're an embarrassment. So after that, he storms out, and they're waiting around, and they get a phone call in the hotel, and he's like, okay. And they're like, what is it? What did they say? And he's like, we're back in. So they get to walk in the opening ceremony, and it's televised in Jamaica, and everyone's super proud. So Junior's father shows up, And it's like, you need to come home. What the hell are you doing? And finally, he's like, I'm pride, I'm power. And it's just like, Dad, I'm not going home. I'm a man. And then his dad is just like, oh, and leaves. Like, doesn't even fight with him.
It's now the first day of the Olympics, and they're back on the track, and unfortunately, they don't do so good. They come in like last place.
Yeah, they really like choke bad. Like their start goes really bad. Like they can't get the one guy like in the sled, and the commentators are just like making fun of them the whole time. So everyone's really upset, and they're back in the hotel room, and they're like, why can't we be like the Swiss? Swiss do this, the Swiss do that. Like Doris is obsessed with the Swiss. And Sanka's like, look, we're not Swiss. Like, the best I can be is Jamaican. So we need to, like, just own our Jamaicanness and, like, do this like Jamaicans. Oh, there was a funny thing where he's like, I've known you since Julie Jeffrey, like, tried to see your diggling. And I thought that kind of funny. I pick up on these little nuances in case you haven't noticed. So, like, the next day comes and they, like, come to the track and they're singing the, like, some people say, they can't believe Jamaica, we have a bobsled team. And are just like, we are gonna win this as Jamaicans, and are just in, like, higher spirits.
So they do their second run, and they end up with a pretty fast time, which puts them in 8th place.
Yeah, 56.53, which is better than their qualifier. So they have some downtime. They're in good spirits, and Blitzer and Doris are chatting, and he asks Blitzer why he cheated. And he's like, I had to win. Like, I was winning. And it's like, if you're not enough without the gold medal, then you'll never be enough with it. And he's just like, I couldn't deal with not winning.
Blitzer says that he'll know that feeling, whether he'll need it or not, when the Olympics are over. He'll know if he can think of himself as a champion with a medal or not a medal.
And so they go to their last run, and they're in pretty good standing. So they start off, and they're going great, and they get into the car on time, and things are going good. But then the camera pans to like some metal screws shaking, and that's never a good sign. And one of the blades starts wiggling a little, and then all of a sudden the announcer's talking about how they're going off track a little bit and things aren't looking good and what's going on, and then all of a sudden they're going into a turn and they crash.
Well, they flip, and then they kind of like keep sliding down the track on the side, and it's scary as fuck just to watch.
Because their heads are like on the ice.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's why they got helmets, but still. And it's Sanka this time who's like, Doris, you did? He's like, no. So they were looking around, and there's people who are running to come to their rescue, and they're really close to the finish line. They're only like 20 feet away. So they decide to get out, and then they're going to carry the sled to the finish. And I find it really funny as they're walking along, who should start the slow clap but the East German guy who's watching in the audience. And why is he in the audience? Because he should be competing. So that makes no fucking sense either. But he starts the slow clap. And the slow clap goes on for quite some time, like in unison. It's like for a while. And you see Blitzer's old coach, and then you see Junior's dad, and he's rocking the Jamaican bobsled team shirt, and then he's all smiley. And then finally everyone breaks out into just plain cheers as they cross the finish line. And everyone's like super happy, even though they failed miserably, and probably have to get the fuck off the course so the next people can run, but whatever. And there's a little blurb at the end about how they appeared in that Olympics, and 4 years later they returned as equals.
And you see a photographer taking the photo of the team with Blitzer. Then it cuts to Jamaica, where you see Mr. Coolidge, and he's like putting it on his wall above the picture of Doris's dad.
Yeah, which is kind of cool because it's like full circle.
They return to Jamaica as heroes, even though they didn't win anything.
Yeah, and the credits roll, and then I didn't realize there was an actual Jamaica bobsled team chant song with a lady singing it, which I thought was pretty funny.
Apparently it was a true song that came out when the original bobsled team went, written back then.
So that's it. That's Cool Runnings. I find this movie campy and wonderful. I like it. It's a Disney uplifting story. But I mean, there were a lot of Nad jokes for a Disney movie, just saying.
It's funny because I don't give a shit about sports, but I love sports movies for some reason.
I'm like that. I can probably talk in the brain basement about how much I love sports anime, but that's a whole nother story. You know, everyone loves a good underdog story, and like, even though they didn't win in this one, like, it's just the fact that they were acknowledged.
Oh my god, I was crying like a baby at the end of this. Well, I cry at movies all the time, anyways, because I'm super sensitive.
Well, and two, I like the whole thing about his dad, like, coming around, you know,
Yeah.
to acknowledge them. And it's a little bit of, you got the guy who fucked up, who's coming back to coach, and he's turning his shit around. You got these runners who couldn't compete, who finally got the chance to compete, who are, like, turning their shit around. Like, it's an uplifting movie, and it's got a lot of, like, funny humor, like, mixed.
I enjoyed it, and I hadn't seen it before.
It's a good movie to watch.
All right, let's go to the brain basement. All right, welcome to the Brain Basement, where we're gonna talk a little bit about Missed Olympics and some other things. So after watching this, I always like to go on IMDb and like look up the actors just to see if like I recognize them from other things. And it turns out the main guy who played Darius, his name is Leon. He was in the Madonna Like a Prayer video. You know, the controversial one. He's like a saint, but then people like lost their shit over that video back in the 80s. Madonna was supposed to have a Pepsi deal, and then Pepsi saw that video and was like, oh no, because it was just like super blasphemous to people, I guess, at the time. And
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go look at this now.
you never seen this video?
I mean, I'm sure I have, but it's been a long time. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was hella good looking.
He's been in a bunch of other stuff too.
I want to talk about the Olympics. I don't know, they've always been like a super big part of my life. Like I said, I don't really watch sports, but like for that, however many weeks it is, depending on the winter or the summer, like I'm glued to the TV and I will watch anything and everything. I'll watch curling, I will watch handball, I will watch water polo, even though I find it super boring, but I will watch whatever. But can't get enough of it, and it's like my super bucket list dream to go to the Olympics, which I was planning to do in Japan because Japan and the Olympics, check. But due to COVID, everything got canceled. But I'm still planning to go next year, but I'm just hoping it all works out because I don't think they'll be able to do it unless we get a vaccine. But yeah, I remember the Atlanta ones in '96 with Tara Lipinski and all that.
I think it was the 96 ones. Didn't we see like they had the like guy running with
Yeah,
the torch? That
they
was
had the
cool.
torch run through our city, which was really cool. I just remember a lot of Olympic things. One of the coolest like Olympic torch lightings though was the Barcelona one where he shot the arrow into the cauldron. That was really cool. I remember that when I was a kid. I was also born in an Olympic year,
So
so
was
you know,
I.
it's in my blood.
Well, in 84, when you were born, they were in LA.
Yes, they're supposed to come back to LA in I think it's 2028, which I'd love to go to, but I can only imagine like how expensive it's going to be to get a place to stay in LA and transportation in LA, and it's like probably cheaper to go to Japan, but we'll see what happens. Also, we were talking before that I really love like sports movies and I really like sports anime. Prince of Tennis. I'm so weird that I went to see the Prince of Tennis musical in Japan and it's not in English and it's a musical about tennis and I've been twice. There's also Haikyuu is a really cool sports anime about volleyball and they've had like not musical but like a live play that I've watched that's really cool. I haven't watched it live, but there's so many sports anime that I love. Yowamushi Paddle, Slam Dunk, all the good ones. They're just fundamentally interesting. I was actually planning to go to see indoor volleyball in Japan, and everything I know about it I learned from watching Haikyuu. It's fun to learn about sports even if you're not necessarily going to do them. But yeah, it's a lot of that underdog spirit though too.
I mean, I watch the Olympics, but I'm not like as into them as you. Like, I'll just catch them in passing.
Sometimes the commentators are like super horrible though. It just
Yeah, that kind of
depends.
takes me out of it.
One, like it's funny like how they butcher like some of the international names. Not that I'm perfect either, but I just remember in men's gymnastics, like this one Japanese dude was named Daisuke, and they kept saying Daisuke, which means I love you, and it's like, okay, we get it. You like him a lot, but could you say his name right? But no, too, in figure skating, I know like last year there was that figure skater. He was really young and he was like pegged to like really win everything, but he kind of choked. And they were like so mean to him. He's American and you're American. Yes, he messed up, but you don't gotta like keep bringing it up like every fucking time you
And
talk to
rubbing
him.
it
Like,
in.
why did you
Yeah.
choke? How did you feel when you choked?
How the fuck do you think I felt?
Or I remember once there was a skier, and I forget what happened exactly. I don't know if his like brother had just died or something happened where he had this tragedy in his family. And of course, like after his like run, they just bring it up like nonchalantly, like, did you like do it this way because you were thinking about your like dead brother? And I'm like, you are so insensitive. Like you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, you can ask him a question. Everyone knows the backstory because they played it a bajillion times. You don't have to be so fucking direct. And then there's always some Olympic controversy that, like, shakes things up. Like Lochte in Brazil when he made up that whole fucking story.
That Richard Jewell thing that they just made a movie about, but I remember when it actually happened at the 96 Olympics about the bombing.
Oh, yeah, and they blamed him.
Turned out it wasn't him. But I didn't see the movie that came out, but I remember following that case.
But I love the Olympics. I don't know why, but I just do.
All right, moving on to the music spotlight. All right, now for the music spotlight. And today's topic is montage songs.
Yeah, I really like the montage song in this movie, but we're gonna count down some of our favorite montage songs.
All right, and the first on the list is a song from Rocky IV. It's Robert Tepper, No Easy Way Out. There's no shortcut home. Yeah, this song rocks. Well, Rocky IV is, even though I've never seen that movie, but I know it's like the king of montage songs because I think there's like 5 different montage songs in that movie. But that's the one we picked. Moving on to
Number 2 is Paul Engman and Scarface, aka Push It to the Limit.
the limit. Walk along the razor's edge. I don't know the rest. Okay, I love this song. Most of the songs on this list are from sport type movies, except for this one, unless you want to consider snorting a shit ton of cocaine as sport. Yeah, anyways, I love this song. It's got a really good Giorgio Moroder synth solo in the middle, and he's fucking awesome. And yeah, this is just a really good song. Like if you want to get hyped or something.
It is, it's a good one. And then moving on to number 3 with Joe Esposito, one of my personal favorites. You're the best around.
Nothing's gonna ever keep you down. You're the best
around. From The Karate Kid. I mean, what
Yeah.
can I say?
This-
It's the best.
The
around.
song made that movie.
Yeah, I mean that, and I'm the man who will fight for your honor.
Well, that's
I
from
mean,
number 2, but
yeah,
whatever.
no. Yeah, You're the Best Around is a great training montage song and served the Karate Kid very well.
All right, number 4 is a song from the Transformers movie, the original, not the 2000s ones. It's Stan Bush with the touch. 'Cause you got the touch. You got the power. Yeah. Sorry, I love that yeah part. That like,
I mean,
that's awesome.
that's what
I
kills
don't
it.
even know if this is from a montage, but it just like fucking like rocks, and
It
it's
feels
like,
very montagey. You could have your own personal montage to it.
for real. Like it's super 80s, and I freaking love it.
All right, and then of course, the last but certainly not least, one of the greatest montage songs of all time. We got Survivor with The Eye of the Tiger. It's the greatest. I mean, how can you not get pumped with that beat?
Yeah, and this
You
is from
can't.
Rocky 3. And yeah, I mean, this is just like one of the best songs ever. It's like you want to pump your fist in the air. Fuck authority. I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
the best.
All right, we have an honorable mention, which is from the movie Team America World Police, and it's We're Gonna Have a Montage.
Montage.
Which totally sounds like they took the like music to Scarface Push to the Limit, but then they like changed the words. But it's really funny because it's just basically like telling you the story of like what's going on in the montage, and it's just great.
And how to have a montage in the song.
All right, and that's it for our music spotlight. If you want to check out our songs in full, you can check them out on our website.
Thanks for joining us on our very special Olympic episode. We are doing a couple changes because Snarky's back to work. So we're only going to be putting out podcasts every other week instead of weekly. We hope you'll still join us.
Yeah, so we'll be back in August with a new episode. So if you'd like to drop us a line and tell us your favorite Olympic event, you can reach us at spunkyandSnarkyShow@gmail.com. You can check out our website at spunkyandSnarkyShow.wordpress.com, or you can leave us a voice message on our Anchor page, which is anchor.fm/spunkyandSnarkyShow. Thanks again for listening. Have a good week, and we'll see you in August.
See you in August. Have a good one.
Bye.